The South African Electricity Regulatory Framework is actually well established as we speak, Program Director, and it is matured as we speak. There has been a lot of changes over the past number of years that we're going to go through in the next few slides. Example, actually the electricity supply landscape, where we are witnessing an increase in the decentralized power generation. Many customers from commercial, residential, are actually opting to generate electricity own use. And obviously, the affordable, the reliable energy is the lifeblood of any economy, not in South Africa, but across the world. Therefore, licensed distributors are basically well positioned to play a significant role in the local energy transition. But Program Director, allow me to highlight that one of the key drivers to the energy transition is actually the cost of PV for photovoltaic, which we see that it is decreasing over time and is becoming more and more competitive. And the cost for the renewable energy generation, including solar PV, has fallen sharp over the past number of years. It has declined by over or at least 85% in 2010 and 2020. And this has been driven by many variables, including the improving technology, the economies of scale, as well as supply chain. I'm not sure if you can see the graph, Chairperson. However, this is a clear demonstration of the decrease in terms of energy or technology prices. Example is solar PV. The red color is actually 2020. The blue one is 2010. You will notice that solar PV in 2010, it was around 4,000 US dollars per kilowatt. This is a total installed cost. In 2020, price has fallen sharply below 1,000 US dollar per kilowatt. So this is the decrease in the technology that I'm talking about, which makes solar PV and other renewable technologies more attractive compared to other technologies. Having said that, Chairperson, we are well aware that our country is highly characterized by the dependencies on the fossil fuel resources, specifically coal, which we know that in terms of reserve, in Africa as a continent, we've got over 16 billion tons of coal, and South Africa has around 9 billion tons of coal, over 50% of the reserve of resources in Africa. South Africa has more than half of that. The annual electricity price increase is one of the factors. The load shedding, as Dr. Kaseke indicated earlier on, that affected by load shedding from 12 o'clock. The regulatory framework that I'm going to talk about, in South Africa, we are basically one of the countries with very good solar irradiance. And because of all these factors, Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, solar PV is expected to grow exponentially in the coming year. Program Director, do allow me to give a highlight of this particular slide. I'm not going to talk about all these points related in the slide. However, this is where it all started with the 2018 Salga Energy Summit, where there were a couple of summit declarations and resolutions that talks to the current transition that we see right now as we speak. One of the resolutions was about exemption of the requirement for our technologies up to 10 megawatts. To date, we see that now the exemption is up to 100 megawatts. There are many other solutions that talk to all these changes that we see unfolding in terms of the regulatory framework, which Salga has advocated for in the 2018 Energy Summit. This is also to attest to the previous slide, some of the resolutions or some of the changes that have unfolded after the summit in 2018. We've seen in 2019, we've seen the president's remarks around the regulatory framework from the SONA 2019, 2020, as well as 2021. Some talks to the exemption of the licensing requirement from the renewable energy technologies. And of course, some of these remarks made by the president, the SONA, was about countries being allowed to procure power from the IPPs. But in the interest of time, Chairperson, I'm not going to talk about all of them. I will just bring your attention to the amended Schedule 2, which talks to the exemption of the licensing requirement for the generation facility of up to 100 megawatts, and also the amended regulations on new generation capacity that was actually published in October 2020 that does allow municipalities to procure power from the IPPs. Is actually what is advocated for in 2018. And that basically leveled the playing field. Municipalities have got equal opportunity in terms of procurement as government other entities. The key regulations or key pieces of regulations, the IRP, we all know the allocation in terms of megawatt for the different technologies. The amended regulations on new generation capacity, I spoke about this, as well as the Electricity Regulation Act Schedule 2. But let's now, Chairperson, look at these amended regulations on new generation capacity, which gives way for municipalities to procure their own power from IPPs. And of course, some municipalities do have plans to diversify their electricity supply sources and intend to implement renewable energy technologies. A lot of municipalities that we have interacted with, they are actually venturing into purchasing power from the IPPs or part of their power from IPPs instead of relying on ESCOM. The National Treasury Circular 118, which actually does gives is a framework on the procurement of new generation capacity, was published in June 2022. We have circulated this to all municipalities, and it basically seeks to provide advice on to the municipalities of the legal framework as well as procurement of new generation capacity, which there are a couple of scenarios that I'm going to talk to in the next few slides. But in terms of these scenarios, ladies and gentlemen, let's start with the electricity regulation, the amended electricity regulation on new generation capacity, where the Regulation 5 is quite clear of requirement that municipalities may now apply to the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy to procure buy power from the and requirements are quite clear. I think by now this is quite popular. However, to colleagues from local government, what is that the project must be aligned to IRP. That is the project on municipalities are going to procure power from IPPs. It has to be part of IRP. It has to align to the IRP technologies. It has to form part of the IDP, municipal IDP, and the feasibility study must accompany this application to the Minister of Resources and Energy. 3 project delivery mechanisms that municipalities can use. One is actually municipal owned plants, which we know that the renewable energy technology is quite expensive in terms of the building of the power plant. But there are municipalities that do have or that do the power station. The Triple P, one of the mechanism which talks to municipal finance management section 120. PPA, purchase agreement, is another mechanism which is mainly talks to section 33. What we are saying as to the local government is that when deciding or when municipality has decided to get off from the IPPs, the default process for the power procurement is actually a competitive or open process that needs to be undertaken under the Municipal Finance Act through issuing of request for proposal in order to get a competitive proposal from the market. And of course, this is the most, is the approach the most suitable for utility scale procurement and of course other distributed generation procurement. Any triple P project will follow this at a procurement base. Then these are various scenarios in which I want to actually say second to the last slide. I want to take through various scenarios in which municipalities can procure power from the IPP. The first one actually talks to the ministerial determination. It's actually the same scenario as the REAP, Renewable Energy Independent Power Procurement. That is actually spearheaded by the IPP's office under DMRE, where the DMRE is the procurer and ESCOM is the buyer or taker. In scenarios of the government can be procurer and municipalities in that specific province can be the buyer. However, it's not a common approach to the municipalities. The scenario 2 and 3 are actually the most common ones, which we actually promoting and advising municipalities to explore them. Scenario 2 is where municipalities is both procurer and buyer. That's where the municipality will basically go out on tender or request for proposal in order to get a proposal from different IPPs, which becomes competitive process. Difference between scenario 2 and 3 is that scenario 2 is where the project will be located on a land that is not by the municipality. Scenario 3 is where the project will be constructed in a land that is actually owned by the municipality. Difference being that if it's scenario 3 where the land is owned by the municipality, the project is most likely to trigger triple P process, which there are issues around the fact that it's cumbersome and it takes too long. But Chairperson, scenario 2 and 3 are quite common, and that's where we are actually, we've started looking at some of the municipalities are exploring this example, being explained that as we speak, signed power procurement, what have signed PPA with around 46 IPs. So it is, these are scenarios which we've seen that some municipalities are actually exploring them. Scenario 4 and 5 again are also the same. This is where the municipality is actually developing and operating, building, own and operating a power plant for own consumption and actually selling to customers. Difference between 4 and 5 is that scenario 5 is where municipality can do the same, build, own, operate, but sell the surplus power to the neighboring municipalities. Scenario 6 is actually where there is a multi-buyer, where a couple of municipalities are actually buying power from one IPP. And then scenario 7 is where we are municipality, we actually call it more of a no-go, in a sense that unsolicited is quite vulnerable to many delays. We have seen some of the municipalities, examples such as Canaland, it just quite derailed in one of its power procurement projects where it followed the unsolicited bid. So this is what we're actually saying to municipalities, that this is a no-go. It's always best to go out on market and get a proposal. But the main message from this slide, Chairperson, is that we are saying that municipalities can test the market through request for information in line with scenario 2 and 3 in order to what kind of interest and appetite is in the market, and what kind of proposals around the prices in terms of kilowatt hour that they can get from different IPPs. So these are basically certain scenarios which we are actually saying to municipalities that they need to look at them closely, assess the pros and cons, SWOT analysis. However, we are mindful of the fact that it's always best for municipalities to be both the procurer and the buyer, as is evident with other municipalities such as Ekurhuleni, that we've seen that it does work, where you go out on market, you adjudicate, you then sign power agreement with the successful bidders. and of course, in line with the Municipal Finance Management Act. So just to talk about the unsolicited bid again, to emphasize with the experience we've seen with other municipalities, Chairperson, these scenarios involves municipalities being approached by potential bidders. And the reason why I want to talk about it is that I know that uh, investors from all sorts of continents will approach, or they do approach municipalities, but with the political leadership and administration, present proposal on how they can partner with the municipality and generate power where the municipality can be off taker. And of course, we're saying municipalities must listen to such proposals, but at the end of the day, the municipality can always inform or tell the investor that yes, go out on the market. And of course, you're an investor, you're allowed to apply. And with such a proposal, you are most likely to get a contract in a fair, open, transparent manner instead of unsolicited. And of course, we're mindful of the fact that Section 113, if not mistaken, of the Municipal Finance Management Act does allow unsolicited bid, but the fact is that it is not easy to justify the unsolicited bid. It is vulnerable to attract negative attention from competitors, and more often than not, you end up being in court because some of the competitors may not like the way in which municipality would have gone the process of unsolicited bid. And we know that one of the requirements for unsolicited bid is that the product or the service must be so that is the provider must be the sole supplier of the services or the goods or product. And for these technologies, there is no sole supplier, 100%. So in conclusion, I want to say that as Salga, we have a clear role to play in representing the interest of our members, member municipalities, so that they can fulfill their developmental and constitutional obligation precisely through the advice and representation on various scenarios in which municipalities can procure power from the IPP, as I indicated in the past two slides. And we will continue to do so, and to build capacity in the municipalities so that they can align and adjust to the energy transition that is actually taking place as we speak. And we'll continue to unlock the municipal generation capacity procurement. We will keep um, encouraging municipalities to actually drive this sustainable local energy transition in a manner that is in accordance with the legislations and regulations, and will continue to facilitate knowledge and information sharing on the just energy transition, including the municipal power procurement. And this is actually in a uh, or is done to ensure of supply in the municipalities through diversification as well as digitalization. These are a few slides, Chairperson, that I thought I should share the delegates on how municipalities can procure power from the IPPs as the regulations allow municipalities to do so as compared to the situation before 2017, where municipalities were not basically allowed, or regulations and legislations were not open to municipalities to procure power from the IPPs. Yeah, I think that, Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity. Back to you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Moraudzi, for that presentation. Colleagues, lunch will be ready at 1:15. So I will squeeze in one more presentation before we go out for lunch. But before I do that, I just for some of you who are not from this area, we spoke a bit about wine production here, and I'm holding a bottle called Winterberg. It's named after the mountain range in the Wigglesea area. It's a 2020 Pinotage, Um, and so, Mr. Marauzi, I'll keep a bottle for you since you are not here. But I know that our colleague from the CETA might leave soon. So before she leaves, I want to thank her and give her a bottle and enjoy it and yeah, you let us know what you think of that wine. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Colleagues, will then listen to uh, Kola Shrepu from Didid. I know he's here, and then he will come and talk to us and also get a bottle of wine as well.
All right. Thank you, Program Director. With all protocol observed, let me say good afternoon to everyone. I have 20 minutes. I think I'll be finished my presentation within 15 so that we can go on lunch. My presentation is on renewable energy within the province. So I will be looking at the overview of renewable energy within the Eastern Cape, and I will also be zooming in on what is happening at Krisani District Municipality. So I come from the Department of Economic Development, Environmental Affairs and Tourism. The department that has got sector specialists that you can see that I mentioned there at the bottom: agri-industry, sustainable energy, automotive, light measuring, tourism, and oceans economy. Those are the subsectors that we support as a department. So I'm specifically coming from sustainable energy, and our role being supporting the growth of renewable energy for a substantial growth of our economy in the province. So with that, our vision in our department, we look at it as a provincial sustainable energy strategy, and our main vision is to provide the most enabling environment for sustainable energy development in the Eastern Cape, for obvious reasons to increase our economy. And our other goals in that is job creation, skills development that was mentioned by Moodley, alleviate energy poverty, greenhouse reduction, improve industrial competitiveness, promote renewable energy production in the province, and then lastly, promote development of renewable energy, manufacturing industry, and technology and development. Because at the end, we would like to see some of the components that we use in the renewable energy being manufactured, not only in South Africa, but some of them in the Eastern Cape. So a quick zoom into a RIP program in the Eastern Cape. But before I start with that, let me look at the national department, because most of our policies that we implement as a province, we are directed by what is implemented or what is planned by our national government. So our national government, in terms of the National Infrastructure Plan 2050, they are very clear that a reduction in coal power plants, and there will be an increase to renewable energy, especially wind and solar, for main reason that they are least cost and they are quicker to connect to the grid. So those two technologies, I think for wind, take about 2 years of construction, a year and a half to 2 years. And then for solar, anything to 8 months to a year and a half, you can have those technologies in the grid. And also, if you look at the trend, especially in Bid Window 5, those technologies have increased in price as well. I think in Bid Window 5, we've seen bid that are even below 70 cents per kilowatt hour. So those technologies are coming down dramatically in price. So we want to look at those opportunities. And also, we are also driven by the IRP, Integrated Resource Plan 2019, for our new generations edition. So what are South Africa looking at going to 2030 and beyond that to 2050? But before 2050, going to 2030, South Africa is planning to have 15,000 additional power from wind, 15,000 megawatts, and then it's looking about 6.8 megawatts on solar. Is also looking at 6,000 megawatts in embedded generation, which Salga, Dr. Mola Woods has put an emphasis in his presentation. And then we're also looking at 3,000 on gas or diesel. And then lastly, another 2,088 on battery storage, as we know that most of our renewable energies, they need a backup of battery storage. That is the plan that is coming from a national government. And then our role in the Eastern Cape, what are we looking at the Eastern Cape? At the Eastern Cape first, this, according to CSIR, that plan that I just showed, is estimated to be around 120 billion, which is critical for enabling environment conditions. And most of this project, I will be speaking on the one, Etingoba Temba here in Krisani, that we as TDIT has supported, but most of the project to succeed the Eastern Cape, we give support to TDIT by intervening one way or another. So of that 120,000, we at TDIT want to support that investment, most of it to come in the Eastern Cape. If we were allowed, we would have said all of it to come to the Eastern Cape. And then once we have the investment, we also look at now at the commitments that are made by those projects in terms of community development, because they've got a component from RAPE of community development. So we want to look at those investments. So we work closely with the IPPs that are operating within the Eastern Cape in ensuring that a positive impact on the communities around those IPPs. So how do we do this? As I said at the beginning, in our vision, is to create an enabling industrial environment for location of sustainable energy within the Eastern Cape, ensure additional grid transmission, because with renewable energy projects, you need grid, you need space to connect in the grid, so your power lines must be ready to connect that. So we also do give support, work closely also with ESCOM in terms of increasing our grid, because as it stands, I think in the study we have done, if that project can be implemented as is, the IRP, Eastern Cape can only take up 35% or below in its grid. So if we say that we want to attract most of those projects into the Eastern Cape, it means that we need to increase our grid capacity. So we do work with ESCOM, transmission and planning, to increase the grid of Eastern Cape so that we can attract more of the project within the Eastern Cape. And then the other one, harness the maximum possible chain localization of socio-economic outcomes. As I've said, that once we got the projects or investors coming to the Eastern Cape and operating the Eastern Cape, and then we work with them in terms of maximizing the socio-economic outcomes that come with their projects that they've committed during their bid, make sure that they've got a meaningful impact within our communities. And then also harness industrialization opportunities from sustainable energy projects. As I also mentioned already, that our main aim is to get some of the components of the wind farms being manufactured in the Eastern Cape, so that we can increase job opportunities, ensure adequate alignment of skills development. I think, Dr. Moody, we have been having a meeting with Energy and Water City. I'm not sure if we are part of that, with Alistair McMaster, where we were discussing that there are a whole lot of these opportunities of renewable energy coming, and we want to make Eastern Cape ready in terms of skills development, so that the workforce that we're going to create in the Eastern Cape will be able to take up of those opportunities that will come in the Eastern Cape. Link innovation, entrepreneurial skills, and small business opportunities to sustainable energies. That is also one thing that we have noted, that in this field, there's not much participation of SMMEs and the growth, especially of local businesses. So we're also looking at exploring those opportunities and see how we can improve that, so that we can have our SMMEs being trained, being developed, so that they are able to take up opportunities as we are going to the future. So that is our mandate in the Eastern Cape TDIT. Normally, when we put this slide, that shows the wind in the Eastern Cape. We also put it with other provinces. We'll show Table Mountain in Cape Town, because Table Mountain is a key economic growth of Cape Town, because they've got that Table Mountain, which attracts tourism for them. And then we have Johannesburg for platinum and gold. We've got Bumalanga for coal. And those natural resources, it's what those provinces have used to increase their economy. So at this time around, we as Eastern Cape also have a natural resource advantage, which is a very good wind resource. Eastern Cape has got the best wind resource, almost than any other province in the country. The average offload factor around the country is around 30%, but for the Eastern Cape, our load factor is around 35% for wind. So meaning that we have the very good wind resource. So we do have a natural resource advantage, which as Eastern Cape can zoom in and attract that opportunity and make sure that we've got, as that committed 15,000 megawatts I've shown in the IRP, we have an opportunity to attract more than 50% of that in the Eastern Cape because of that good wind resource. And apart that other things that the criteria to implement the wind resource project is good wind resource, which I've shown that we have a very good wind resource, access to unoccupied land on suitable terrain. If you look at that wind farm, you can see the nice flat land where those wind farms that are put in. So we do have space, and the other advantage that we have, the Eastern Cape land is not rocky. Like you will see, if you go to Western Cape, you will see the Rocky Mountains as you're coming in. But in this Cape, we've got an advantage of a nice flat land, which is very suitable for the installation of wind turbines. And then lastly, access to transmission grid, which I have mentioned that's other thing that we're working with transmission, ESCOM, planning and transmission, that we make sure that Eastern Cape has a capacity of a grid to attract as many investment that can come. Just a quick report on the projects that we currently have in the Eastern Cape. From bid window 1 to bid window 4, Eastern Cape has benefited about 43% of the total wind farms in the country, which is 16 wind farms plus 1 solar plant. That's bid 1 to bid window 4. With additional bid window 5, we have an additional that were highlighted as preferred bidders, additional two wind farms. So currently we've got 16 wind farms that are operating and 1 solar farm in the Eastern Cape. And the total investment of that is about 36 billion. And if you look at a net community trust that is committed by the IPPs there, is about 12 billion. And the net socio-economic development, it's about 7 billion. So of that, we about 4.6 billion for enterprise development as well. So Eastern Cape has got an advantage. We can attract, if we manage to attract about 43% already of the total projects, wind projects in the Eastern Cape, is based purely on what I've said, that we've got a very good wind resource. And the advantage about these values that I'm mentioning here is the money that goes directly to communities. It doesn't go to municipalities. The money that can be spent directly to communities. If we have time, we have given a lot of examples, especially in Sarah Patman. Sarah Patman has managed to get about 70% of this project. Out of the 16, we have 11 i.e. within Sarah Patman, which is in the area of Coke House, Somerset East. We have about 5. We call them Inland 5. And then in the area of Yuma Stop, Jeffreys Bay, we've got about 6, which we call them Coastal 6. So they've got about 11. So 70% of the commitments of this investment they are there. And there are a whole lot of things that are happening there. We will see towns like Bedford, near Athlete, the changes in that town. They've got a new building, they've got a new ShopRite based on the economic activities that have been brought by the 5 wind farms that are happening in that area. But a whole lot of examples where we've seen in Athlete, an appendix operation was not done, or will either be done in PE or in East London, which is both about 3 hours to travel for an appendix operation. But one of the wind farms decided to support a hospital in Athlete for equipment where doctors were willing and can do the operation. So, but there's a whole lot of examples. If you can go there, I think it will need another presentation on its own of what has happened in the other areas where we have the wind farms, which is the main reason that we say at TT we want to bring these opportunities, because we know that these are the opportunities that go directly to our communities. Coming closer home to Chris Hani District Municipality, we have a Torpa wind farm near Molteno, which is made of 40 turbines, and is delivering about 1,935 gigawatt hours, and which is a power that can provide about 502,000 houses, if you look at that. And again, looking at the Dorpa wind farm, this is according to the report that you see in red there at the bottom. It's public knowledge. IPP Provincial Report Volume 2 from the Eastern Cape. What happens is IPP office does give this report quarterly, and then it will tell you how much has been spent already, what was committed, and how much is spent, and so on. So if you look at that, this is a report that coming from that document. The Dorpa wind farm has got about 98,000 megawatts. It has created about 333 job years. Job years being, we look at a person for a job for 1 year. Reason for that, some of them will get temporal jobs, some of them will get permanent jobs. So for you to be able to calculate them, then you change them to job years. So if a person works for 3 months, which is a quarter, it's going to be 0.4 job year. And then if he's worked for 1 year, it's going to be 1 year. And then you are able to add them. So that's about 313 job years. And also, which is key for our climate change, that project will offtake in its existence. It will offtake about 1.9 million tons of carbon dioxide. And of that as well, the total investment of the project is about 2.2 billion. And then for socio-economic development, it's 171 that is committed for over 20 years. That must be spent in the area of Montino and the surrounding areas. And for economic community trust, it's about 735 million. Again, as I said, that these figures are public knowledge. They are in the IPP office document that is released quarterly. Again, I'm sure we've seen this post from our Honorable Premier when the Premier was excited of us in Christian District again at Ngubaya Temba in Middleburg securing a bid window 5 project that is soon going to be finalizing to go on financial close and thereafter on construction. Again, we are working very closely with the IPP. With that, I think next week I'll be in Middleburg to meet the community in terms of SME beneficiation, when construction is going to be done, what plans are there for SMEs and so on. But it's a 3 billion project, which our involvement was also very key. I think and they joined in one meeting when they were there presenting this project to the community, telling that it's coming. So it has happened. We worked very close with the municipality in terms of them getting some of the approvals, like Spluma, for that community, for municipality to approve the Spluma application. And we were working very close, and it has happened. So we have that project now. So meaning that for bid window 5, we are waiting in anticipation of the second project for bid window 5. And then again on the 3rd of October, probably next week, bid window 6 will be going on closing, because bids were submitted. And then we'll also be anticipating what will then happen, how many projects that the Eastern Cape will get. And then I think a presentation from Salga has zoomed in a lot on this one, which is the embedded generation. The embedded generation has got 4 components. One is small-scale embedded generation, where people put solar panels, whether businesses or private buildings, put solar panels on their roof. I know Salga has got a training for municipalities on this one in terms of the power purchase agreement. I think Dr. Mulawins has come in a lot on this one, and he has explained on his slides. And then the second one is the wheeling. Wheeling meaning that I've got this land here, and I want to give power to a building in town somewhere, and then how do I move my power from this land here to that building there? So me connecting to a municipal grid and moving that power to a building in town, it's called e-wheeling. And municipalities can benefit in terms of the private companies using their grid, as it is with ESCOM, with the bigger IPPs, where they connect to ESCOM grid and they're paying for that. So it's the same principle that is working here, that for wheeling, that a project is going to be separated where the actual consumption or off-taker is, and then they will be connecting to a municipal grid, and how that electricity is moved using a municipal grid. Municipalities can benefit on this. And then it's municipal-owned generations. When municipalities, if they have a capacity, they have finances, they can generate their own power for power savings as well. Because as we are looking at energy supply, the other things that will assist us in terms of load shedding. I think even the CEO of ESCOM was mentioning this, that let's switch off what we do not use. So if buildings and some private businesses can also assist in terms of generating their own power, it will assist for us so as well. Municipal own generation, when municipality either put roof solar panels on their roofs or putting their solar plants in their buildings or nearby. That is municipal own generation. And then also where municipalities procure their own power, meaning that you don't have to wait for buy power from ESCOM. You can have a private provider selling electricity to you. And this is one thing I think Program Director will ask for a number of Dr. Mulawitz after this presentation, because we're very interested in this one. He has mentioned it a lot, because we even you can see there, we said it's institutionally complex. As it stands, municipalities were not allowed to procure their own power. But I've seen now Dr. Mulawitz mentioning it in this slide, and Salga is doing something about it. We would like that connection, because our work as in my department is to support municipalities, Eastern Cape municipalities as well. So we'd like to get that information. If that now it's been legislated and it can give us opportunities, we would like to support municipalities. I think also, I don't want to show this slide, the decrease in the price of solar and an increase in the ESCOM power. So the green slide you will see, it's the ESCOM power prices, where it moved from about 99 cents in 2017 to 134 cents over to 2021. And then we have seen the power from solar from 164 cents up to 90 cents. But as I've said, to be really, really optimistic, I've seen in between of 5 people selling power even at 38 cents. So the solar power has really, really went down. And as I've said, that South Africa is looking at the least cost option. So this, together with the relaxation of Schedule 2 of electricity for private providers to do 100 megawatts, plus the issue of pricing that I've mentioned, we've seen in the Eastern Cape a big application of EIAs for emerald generation. Just a year ago, we had about 11,000 applications, but now we've seen more than 90,000 applications for emerald generation. Because of the 2 things I've mentioned, the receipt of Schedule 2 of electricity, 200 megawatts, plus the price that is going down of solar. So it's an opportunity that is coming. And then our role, as I've said, is we did mention that we want to support industrialization of the components in the Eastern Cape. So what else is happening in the Eastern Cape? There is a manufacturer for solar panels at East London ITZ, which is a 300 megawatts developed joint venture between ILB and Hilos. It's a 247 module plant, module assembly plant, currently on trial production for food production in September. So they were planning to go on food production this year in September, but they are on trial now. So they will be doing module assembly in East London ITZ. And as I've mentioned, that we as provincial government is to support the impact of emergency in their businesses model and harness opportunities that come with this new model. So once we've seen that there's a lot of projects coming in, we also want to support the industrialization of projects where some of the components either being assembled or manufactured in the Eastern Cape. Furthermore, the SCZ as well are pushing rooftop solar systems which improve the offering of secure green energy. So both SCZ, which is Guga, and Eastern NZ, they are both exploring an option of having solar in their buildings, so that those businesses operating in those zones can have secured power from solar, which is something that the industrial park that we have here in Komani can look at as well, putting solar on the roof panels. I know we supported the grid infrastructure about 2 years in the industrial park, but these are the other options that the industrial parks as well in a smaller municipalities can look at. Battery storage, as I've shown there, about 2,088 is planned in the IRP for battery storage, and CSIR is calculating that about 25%, which is about 550 of that can come in the Eastern Cape. So we have a potential also in the Eastern Cape for battery storage, which is something that Eastern Cape can look at. And I know after P2006 announcement, shortly after that, they'll be announcing battery storage projects as well. The last time we were at ESCOM, they were looking at the battery storage as well. Again, in this battery storage as well, as you say, that we always look at projects and then we look at the opportunities. So there is a company, VRFP facility. It's a construction company facility that is in complete manufacturing, and now they are in the process of procuring the equipment. It's being mentioned. They will be manufacturing batteries in East London, IGZ again. So we're looking at those opportunities that whenever there's an opportunity, we look at an opportunity of industrialization or manufacturing within the Eastern Cape. Green hydrogen, it was also mentioned by Dr. Moodley, where water is used to separate hydrogen from water, and that hydrogen can be used as gas or for heat, for electricity, and many other various usages that it can support. Once you drive this process with renewable technologies, then it becomes a green hydrogen. Again, Dr. Moodley has mentioned that in Kucha, we have about 60 million project, no billion, about 70 billion project that is being explored in Eastern Cape. I know some of our principals will be going to overseas in the coming weeks to further explore that option. Yeah, so those are the opportunities as well that we are looking at. So we're looking at all options. Again, Mercedes-Benz in East London, they are looking at a manufacturing plant which we can utilize, substitute their LPG gas with hydrogen, and testing of their trucks as well. So those are all of opportunities. That's my last part of my presentation. I just want to share the project that we've done at Upper Blinkwater, near Fort Bedford, as we are coming here from Cook House going towards Fort Bedford. Just before, about 10, 15 km, you go to this area called Blinkwater. There on top of the mountain, which is called Upper Blinkwater, we have a mini grid project, which is a solution for electrification of villages. This project is a 75 kilowatt plant, solar plant, which now we have added another 21 kilowatt of wind to support a battery charging of batteries. But there are about 70 houses in that area. They are having good quality electricity from this plant. When I say good quality electricity, it's exactly the same as ESCOM electricity. The only thing that we work with the community very closely is to reduce cooking with that, as it's gonna, especially at night, as it will consume battery quicker. But during the day, a few of them that are at home can do cooking. And also we separate them with LPG gas stoves so that for cooking they can use that. But this project is more for service delivery, and we've been having a lot of visits from ESCOM colleagues, and at one point they've agreed that it's a very good project, and especially also look at the cost, because they were saying to bring power to that village, because I must say that that village was not in the plan of ESCOM to get the electricity for the next 10 years. That's how it has been selected, and it was far from a grid, ESCOM grid. So when we visit from ESCOM colleagues, they have said that to bring power to that area as it is, their infrastructure and their logistics were going to cost about 3 times more than that project with the solar plant. Colleagues are aware we do have a lot of visits from different departments. The Army has went there, and ESCOM has went there to go and see the type of power and how it's being managed as well, because it's got a system, Wi-Fi connected system, sophisticated IT system that is managing the power usage. So if a person goes, the batteries are going below 75%, it starts switching off certain plugs, and then if it goes below 50%, the batteries start switching off any plugs, up to a point that people can only use maybe plugs for TVs and lights when we have dark cloudy days. And then it's got a battery storage, and it also have a diesel backup. And I can say that it's about a year now we've been running that plant. There is no usage of that diesel. Especially now we've added a wind component, which assists in terms of battery storage. So it's a very good project. Colleagues are welcome to visit in this project. I think the launch of it is going to be in November. So it's going to be a launch of that project. But it's a very good project, and ESCOM is very keen. They are exploring it, they are visiting there, and now and then to ensure that it's an option that they will look at in terms of a village electrification. This one was used as a sample. We've captured everything from the beginning, from the planning, from awareness campaign. Because I can tell you that plant at one point, it was without fencing, with the solar panels installed. But the awareness campaign that was run, they were so perfect that even the communities, without being paid, they were cutting that. They were chasing cows away from the plant. They didn't allow kids to play there. It was a very sustainable project. It's a very good project. It's still sustainable. And we are looking at this project as one of the example for electrification of rural areas. With that, Chair, let me thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kola. Uh, Colleagues, we are going to break for lunch now. Uh, so you gotta listen to me carefully. If otherwise you might not get lunch. So there are some instructions that I'm going to give you. But before I do that, let me say let's thank the Center for Renewable Energy at Stellenbosch University for making this event possible, for sponsoring this event. So we greatly thank you for funding, but also conceptualizing and making sure that this event is possible. So thank you very much for that. So when you go outside, Ms. Nyukwana will guide us as to where we should go to be served for lunch. And the reason for that is that we have some guests who will be leaving very soon, and want to make sure that all of you are able to get food before you go. So let's follow protocol and listen to her when you go outside as to where you will be directed to have lunch. We'll be back here at 2.